everyone and welcome. In this video, I'm going to talk about feminine terms for professions and jobs in Romanian, and I'll also be examining why there's a growing tendency among speakers to avoid using these feminine forms. I think it's an interesting phenomenon, so let's dive into it. With increasing participation of women in professional fields that were once dominated by men, languages with grammatical gender distinction like Romanian have needed to make linguistic adjustments to accommodate and accurately represent the diversity within professions and roles. Romanian is a language abundant in tools and mechanisms to meet this need for forming feminine variants, having a rich system of derivatives, especially in the realm of suffixes. Here are several of the endings/suffixes commonly used to form feminine versions of professional titles derived from their masculine counterparts. Inginer, ingineră, arhitect, arhitectă, avocat, avocată, iță, frizer, frizeriță, chelner, chelneriță, șofer, șoferiță, easă, croitor, croitoreasă, bucătar, bucătăreasă, florar, florăreasă, oare or toare, vânzător, vânzătoare, scriitor, scriitoare, traducător, traducătoare. Following the creation of this rich inventory of feminine forms, a curious phenomenon emerged. Speakers exhibited a reluctance towards these words, even a tendency to avoid using these newly created feminine forms. One potential reason for this reluctance might be the diminished value attributed to specific suffixes. For example, the suffix "asă" is indicative of occupations perceived as more accessible, requiring lower levels of education or training. A slight devaluation is also observed with iță, primarily due to the diminutive connotation it carries. This diminutive sense tends to imply less prestigious jobs overall. Speakers often perceive the feminine variant as lacking elegance or polish, such as with doctoriță, which sounds rather colloquial or informal, or reporteră, despite these feminine forms being listed in the dictionary. Certain feminine titles like primăriță or ministră are actually noted in the dictionary as being familiar or colloquial. Furthermore, in a conceptual framework of professional roles, the frequency of feminine variants seems to decrease as we progress towards more senior levels. And illustrative in this regard are words like profesoară, directoare, asistentă, and so on. The feminine term profesoară is typically used for a school or high school teacher, while at the university level, the masculine term profesor is predominant, such as in profesor universitar. Similarly, directoare, as in directoarea școlii, refers to a school or high school principal, while at the ministry level, the masculine form director is prevalent, as seen in director de stat. Likewise, asistentă, as in asistentă medicală, denotes a nurse, whereas asistent universitar is employed for a university assistant. Yet, even in these examples I've mentioned, particularly in formal settings, the masculine forms tend to become more dominant as they are seen as more neutral and modern, while the feminine forms may be viewed as less refined or informal. Certain professions like pilot, pompier, or medic lack a feminine equivalent and commonly use the masculine form. Alternatively, the analytical method as seen in femeie pilot, femeie pompier, or femeie medic can be utilized, although it is predominantly employed in written language and it's rather seldom used. Nevertheless, it's important to note that using the masculine form instead of the feminine one to denote a profession has certain syntactic constraints. While some syntactic contexts support the use of the masculine form with feminine nouns, there are also grammatical functions that do not allow for this substitution. In the first favored category, we can include predicative names. For example, Doina Pop este inginer. On the other hand, the position of regent to a feminine proper noun requires the use of the feminine form, that is, a gender identical to that of the determinant. So we'll say inginera Doina Pop and not inginerul Doina Pop. This obligatory gender agreement is imposed by the definite article. The solution of eliminating the article to make the masculine accessible also exists and is used especially in introductions. For example, inginer Doina Pop. Unfortunately, although it presents a common form, it does not comply with the articulation regime of Romanian nouns, and as a result, it is regarded with reservation. Alrighty, that's about it for now. Join me on Patreon for even more learning materials, exclusive content, podcasts. I'm now doing audio podcasts I've already uploaded to, and I really hope you enjoyed watching this video and that you've learned something new. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Be happy! Be happy! Ba, ba, ba.